Hi, everybody. Ridgely Goldsboro here, and I'm excited to take you into part 2 of the Maverick story, which is the growing years. So we're talking about a 15-year period. And Jeff, I'd like to just kick this off with, what did you do differently to get the company to gain some traction and get growing, as opposed to those early days of, oh my gosh, I need a client, or we're not going to make payroll. Oh, we're going to run out of money in the next 2 weeks. I better get a purchase order in here. How did we transition from that to traction and growth? What did that look like for you?
Well, I guess first I have to say, some days we're still saying all those things. Man, I need to get back out there. Need to meet some more customers. Need to get the work coming in. It's an kind of an endless effort. You can't sit back on your laurels for too long. But the biggest thing that we did was, in time, we built relationships. We built relationships with manufacturers, and we built relationships with plant owners. And in time, basically, you continue to talk to them. They get to know you. They, get to know what you're about. You start to learn about them, and you develop a rapport. And they realize that they can trust you to take care of their plant.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, and that probably really started to take off around 2005, I would say. That's really where it started. Was we developed a relationship with a few plants and a couple of manufacturers. We started exclusively working with a couple of manufacturers where we would do all their engineering, provide pipe supports for them. And so that became a reoccurring relationship and business with them. We were fortunate, and what I find is, as hard as you work, some years you work hard and everything clicks, and some years it seems like it's still a struggle. So you need a little bit of good luck to go along with all the hard work. And in 2004 and 2005, there was a power utility a regulation that got phased in for the FGD scrubbers, basically scrubbing the coal-fired plants all over America. And that was a tremendous FRP market for all the manufacturers, for everybody that was involved. Huge engineering companies were busy with that as well. And that took off, and that really kind of catapulted us across the country to where also we were touching all kinds of new customers. The phone was ringing off the hook. They needed FRP specialists to come in and design their systems, to provide them with supports. We actually started an inspection group at that time, so that we were going into the plants, and we were into the shops and doing shop inspections, and we had inspectors on site doing billion-dollar installations of FRP equipment at the time. And that's really what kind of grounded Maverick at that time. But largely, if we hadn't taken the time in the years before to develop those relationships, that wouldn't have happened.
Sure, and I think that's very common, Jeff, in all of business. Relationships make all the difference, and which is why recently, we'll talk about that a little bit later, with the pandemic, so difficult to maintain those relationships when you're just staring at each other down a screen. But let's just back to those growing years. I know one of the things that everybody always has an interest in is the catastrophes or the difficulties. So if you could peg one or two catastrophes that Maverick was called in to save the day, or called in to take care of, give us a little flavor of what that was like for you when you get that call.
Sure. So over time, obviously there's a few of them, but during that FGD phase with the power plants, we had one power plant that called us, and they're like, they're sending us pictures, and basically they just launched a fiberglass pipe like out into the yard, and it's spilling like 30,000 gallons of slurry onto the ground. and they're like, this is like the, fifth one this week. We need some help here. And so we mobilize the team. We go to the site in Ohio at the time, and there it is, this 12-inch pipe about 30 foot long sitting on the ground, and it came from the second story of the plant. That was the thing. So it must have been quite the event. So we brought a team up there, and we started to survey all the piping in the plant, and what we found was there was pipes that were sagging, there was pipes that were kind of rocking and rolling. There were all kinds of support issues. We could see just walking down, it's like, okay, there's a failure, there's a repair, there's a repair, there's a repair, there's a repair. And it was just everywhere throughout. There were a couple thousand feet of pipe on this plant, and just everywhere you looked, you could see a problem. So we got with them, we got with the engineering company that did the original installation. We started reviewing their work. We sat down with them in a meeting, and we talked through all the issues. And with a little bit of, I guess, pressure from the owner, we got them to embrace the challenges that they were having. And we basically worked side by side with them to repair all the issues. There were a lot of new supports that came in. They reanalyzed everything. We reviewed their work, and then it was about 4 months later, and about probably another 1,000 pipe supports into the system. Everything kind of stabilized. The customer was happy. He was running continuously now without failures, and everything was really working out for to meet their expectations. So I would say that would be that would be one that I recall.
Was that the toughest one, you think, or was there a job that was even tougher than that?
Oh, it's kind of hard to tell what was the toughest, but so there was another one more recently that was a chloralkali plant. And they had built this plant probably around maybe 2015 or 2017. And literally it ran for 2 years. And within the 2 years period, it actually was actively running probably not more than about 8 months. They were having continuous failures. And in chloralkali, we're talking, there's chlorine on site, there's caustic soda, there's bleach, there's hydrochloric acid. They had some huge spills on the site where they spilled acid into the process unit. And so huge hazards. And eventually it was so bad, they just shut down the plant. The plant sat idle for over 2 years. And so we were contacted by the new owner, who just bought it for basically for a song at that point. They're like, well, we still need to make this work. So can you come help us to put it together? So we went on site, and we brought a team to site, and we made an assessment of all of their equipment. And it was not pretty. It had been overrun. There were wrong materials in place. There was poor fabrication in tanks. And we identified all the issues, and then we began to basically work through them one by one. And over a period of about 18 months, now they're up and running consistent daily, where before they were never over 60% capacity, and now they're consistent. They don't have the safety hazards, and they're running really well. But there were multiple layers of challenges in that project that we had to overcome to help them to get up and going. But it was about an 18-month effort, I would say.
And based on what you know now, what changes would you have made during those growing years more quickly, or what pivots would you make to continue to stay relevant as you move forward and continue to mature the company?
Oh, gosh.
Easy question.
For what I know now, I would, I think what we have learned over time is that business is all about relationships. You can chase projects and things like that, and kind of waves of regulations, but in the end, um, longevity comes from building relationships and growing with that, growing with your customers, supporting them. I think that that's what we have learned, particularly in the last 5 years, and it's brought a lot more stability to Maverick and more growth from that.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. We have one final video that we're going to shoot to talk about the future, what it looks like, et cetera. But I really like the stories about how you go in. And it's just so interesting to me as a bystander to understand, wow, people can make big messes out there when it comes to piping and engineering and all that in a plant.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We'll pick it up in the next video. Thanks so much.
Okay.